Roll the tape, Johnny.
Johnny.
Come with me, and you'll see. In a world of pure imagination. Greetings, Cool Boy Nation, and welcome to a special installment of the Cool Boys Podcast. I'm Felk.
I'm Ballard.
We're going to take a little time machine back to a previous episode in which I wasn't able to contribute whether or not I loved something or hated something. So in order to go backwards in time, I'm going to pull out my Zemeckis cube, twist it a few times, and throw it, because this weekend I watched Ready Player One. So, Cool Boy warning, spoilers from here on out for Ready Player One.
Woo! I can't believe it. We need to get into spoilers, Felk.
I fucking hated it. Watching the movie, I watched it with my gay friend Corey, and he's not actually gay.
Hi, you've reached the Corey hotline. $4.95 a minute. Here are some words that rhyme with Corey: glory, story, allegory, Montessori.
Corey, who also reviewed it on
Yes.
Spoilercast.
That's why I thought it was relevant to mention it, because if Cool Boy historians will remember, Ballard disliked it quite a bit, and Corey was kind of ambivalent about it.
Let's see what's in the newspaper today. Canada stalls on trade pact.
About 10, 15 minutes in is when I turned to him and said, this is fucking horrible. I fucking hate this. I hate its message. But more than that, because initially I was just like, oh, this is cute. I've never seen a movie suck its own dick before. That's how I felt. It was so proud of the fact that it was all about the power of pop culture. And then as it wore on and went forward, I started thinking, like, this is dangerous. This is a dangerous, mentality for Steven Spielberg and all of his crew and, Hollywood in general to have, is that this, to believe in this level of the power of pop culture and referencing pop culture. But I had issues with it, just on a technical level moving forward. I'm not going to restate anything in the Spoilercast, things that weren't mentioned by either of you, that I noticed, things I haven't seen mentioned.
Or if you have strong opinions about shit that was said in the Spoilercast, by all means, please say something.
I definitely lean towards more you, where it's kind of sad to see Spielberg going in this direction. But things that I haven't seen anybody who have listened to Spoilercast talk about, for the prominent Spoilercasts out there, is what the James Halliday and his invention and the world building fucking doesn't work after even a second of thought about it. And it's not just the performance, Mark Rylance, where I didn't get his performance as Halliday. He seemed like he was fucking retarded. The way he talked, it was so slow and so why can't we just go backwards really fast? It's what's wrong with the way you're talking and acting? You seem like you have some kind of disability, but I guess not, because you're brilliant, because you invented this brilliant thing called the Oasis.
The Oasis was the brainchild of James Halliday.
Hello. If you're watching this, I'm dead. I created a hidden object, an Easter egg. The first person to find the egg will inherit $500 billion and total control of the Oasis itself.
Wait, what the fuck did he invent exactly?
This is the Oasis. A whole virtual universe. You can do anything. Be anyone. Without without going anywhere at all.
Okay, virtual reality fucking exists already. I have an Oculus Rift. There already are VR headsets. That's not new technology. That's like 15, 20 years old technology, because Dactyl Nightmare, or whatever it was called, was like arcades in the 90s, and there was shit in like Disney World. Like, VR's existed. It's just now getting to the point where consumers can actually buy it. So VR he didn't invent. There's all these games. He didn't invent all the games. Mountain climbing and skiing already exist in digital form, even in virtual reality. And if the idea is that there's just a single hub where you can access all that shit, that's just overlaying like Second Life on top of the existing internet, and then putting access to every existing game, be it VR or you play it like with a joystick in Atari, even in VR, which is stupid. So what exactly did this guy create? Because the whole selling point in the early beginnings of the movie is the Oasis. You can do anything you want. Anything.
A whole virtual universe.
Let me take you on a trip around the world and back.
People come to the Oasis for all the things they can do.
And you won't have to really sit still.
But they stay because of all the things they can be.
Can you feel this?
She's a slut. Yeah.
It's the only place that feels like I mean anything.
You want to go skiing down the pyramids? You can. You want to climb Mount Everest? You can, with Batman. And I'm like, wait, what? You can go climb Mount Everest with Batman? Because there's a VR game existing already called The Climb, in which you climb shit. And it's pretty cool. And there's VR.
Maybe what he created was a free wireless like connection to this virtual reality place, and that you didn't have to pay for it. You didn't have to download anything. It was all stored on the cloud or whatever, and you got to, essentially you're accessing that.
That's not an invention. That would just be that would just giving something away that already exists. The movie implies he created something. He was a dreamer.
Yeah, and Steve Jobs is not an inventor either, right? He's an innovator. I never thought of Holiday as an inventor. I thought he was an innovator.
Perhaps that's what it is. Perhaps it's the idea that he was the guy who put it all together. He took Second Life and he took VR and he took the internet and he figured out how to combine it. Okay, that's really cool.
And then give easy access to it everywhere for free.
Exactly. That's really cool. Except, oh wait, there's this fucking problem here, which is that I'll give that example again. You can climb, because he says it like in the gayest way possible.
You can do anything. Go anywhere. Like the Vacation Planet. Surf a 50-foot monster wave in Hawaii. You can ski down the pyramids. You can climb Mount Everest with Batman.
You can climb Mount Everest with Batman. It shows Batman climbing Mount Everest. And I'm thinking like, well, there's a VR game which you can climb already. There's a VR game in which you can be Batman already. There's like VR game. There's games like, you know, like Rust and Fortnite and Ark Survival Evolved, where it's in GTA 5 and like shit, like where it's kind of like you could do pretty much wherever you want. But the reason why you can't be Batman in the game at which you climb Mount Everest is because of this thing called licensing fees and intellectual property.
Mm-hmm.
You can't like, so what? Like the thing that this movie is
so he bought all the licenses.
Yeah, this guy just bought the rights to every fucking existing IP, even though the movie doesn't have the rights to every existing IP, because in a world in which everyone references pop culture and does pop culture shit all the time, and there's a big massive battle, oh, no one's dressed like a fucking Jedi, no one has a lightsaber, not a single ship from Star Wars, there's a mention of the Millennium Falcon, and that's the only Star Wars reference in the entire goddamn thing. And it's like, well, that's because...
No, I thought R2-D2 was in the movie.
As an Easter egg? I did not notice him.
I thought, I mean, yes, granted. I mean, how could you notice Easter eggs? It's like Easter egg overload to the point where if you were even to try to like dissect the film to find Easter eggs, it would just be a fool's errand. I'm sure someone's doing it on the internet, and more power to them, because they're going to create a fucking Reddit page all fucking listing everything, but... I mean, it's one of those movies that you just see and you're like, oh, I don't even want to bother.
Yeah,
I don't even want to bother to look in the background.
Yeah. So like, it just ignored the concept of like intellectual property, the world building. The whole time I was wondering, why don't they call the police? Does the government not exist? Because the whole thing is that there's the Oasis is a company that you'll get control of if you find the 3 gay Easter eggs.
A contest. 3 impossible challenges. The first to finish gets complete control of the Oasis, which means complete control of the future.
I'm gonna fucking kick your fucking ass. You know, shut up for a second, all right?
But there's a competing company that just makes hardware called IOI. As near as I can tell, that's what they made was hardware. And they want control. But IOI's dastardly scheme, the reason why they're the villains is they want to put ads in the fucking Oasis. That's their. You mean the thing that every fucking tech company already does? The thing that Google does, that Facebook does, that Twitter does? That's their dastardly scheme, is to put ads in it?
We estimate we can sell up to 80% of an individual's visual field before inducing seizures.
You already can spend real world money on digital goods. All that money has got to be going somewhere, but we never hear from the fucking company that creates the Oasis. It's very like, what's the point? Why are these the bad guys and these the good guys? Oh, they're the IOI's the bad guys because they take people who are in debt and they put them in they kidnap them. They warrantlessly break into their fucking homes with their own SWAT teams. This is a private company with SWAT teams, breaks into somebody's home and takes them and puts them in cages to work in fucking forced labor camps. And we're like, okay, so the U.S. government doesn't exist anymore. There's no cops I'm a famous person. This is Parzival or whatever the fuck. He's famous. He just found the first key, and then there's an explosion in his living quarters that kills a lot of people. And he could have recorded a conversation with the guy openly admitting to it. That's something you would probably go to the cops about. So I'm like, okay, so the U.S. government broke down. But at the end of the movie, the fucking cops show up and they're like, you did crimes. We're going to arrest you. I'm like, this is this is terrible world building.
Like, and it's sad. And it's one of those things that's sad because it's like, you can't name a single other Spielberg film that's this, like
poorly thought out.
Poorly planned out, carefree, and it's like design, and it's like, you know, matters of plot and character. Like, it's been called out everywhere how ridiculous it is that whatever her name is, Artemis, yeah, that she has like Samantha. A little bit of, you know, of a birthmark, you know, on her face, and therefore she's ugly and hideous. Yeah. And it's stupid.
I love that. I kind of thought, I didn't love it, but I was like, I'll write that one off because in movies that equals ugly.
It's stupid.
And you have to realize that in reality because in the book she's like fat too. I mean,
but Spielberg's above that. You know what I mean? Like he that should not be in a Spielberg film. Like that's really scraping the barrel for, like, you know, cinematic tropes. Like, he doesn't need to go there. It's lazy. For me, that's just kind of what that whole film felt like. Honestly, it was scraping the barrel of cinematic tropes. I guess that's a good way to refer to the film. Even, I'm sure it's fun to watch on Blu-ray on a sick ass, you know, home entertainment center and watch the fun, cool scenes, and, you know, but it's just, it breaks my heart because it's like, man, like even Minority Report was planned out, and they brought in futurists to actually, like, discuss, like, where was the future going to go, and in what ways could they modify it to make it look real and stuff like that, and how can it be practical and actually useful in the world it's set in without, you know, impacting on the plot. And then all of a sudden this movie, it's like, hey, the plot fucking is going to be this Easter egg hunt, and we don't give a fuck about the reality.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. But I don't want to go into.
I mean, a CEO is running rampant down the streets, shooting at children
and using drones to blow up fucking people. It's
and like nobody comments on this. Yeah, I know.
Is there no FBI in this world? I mean, you can't.
There clearly is, because at the end of the movie they, like, show all these people, but it's just like, how did that get that far, that deep into the future? I mean, if you look at just the way society uses digital technology and technology in general exponentially as each year, each decade goes on. Like what year was that again? 20 what?
2047.
I was born in 2025. But I wish I'd grown up in the 1980s. Like all my heroes. I live here in Columbus, Ohio. In 2045, it's still ranked the fastest growing city on Earth.
I mean, just the idea that like the thought process of like someone being attacked by drones today or running rampant down the streets would get like coverage on the news like so fucking swift.
Yeah.
You would have action by first responders immediately, and then you just jump ahead almost 30 years, and it's like, how does a CEO, like a high profile human being in the ghettos, right? The stacks.
You can't even take 10 grand from Russia as a CEO without fucking getting an FBI investigation.
Yeah. How does this guy?
He's like having hits carried out and shit.
How is this guy functioning in this world? It doesn't make any sense. And then it also felt at times, it felt like they removed more reality by having this be the only corporation in the fucking movie.
Yeah. Well, there's one shot that doesn't make any goddamn sense where a Japanese businessman is playing in like a Japanese office, and they've got regular monitors. They look like SD monitors in front of them, and he's like just dicking around playing, and he tries to jump out a window, and it's like, well, what the fuck did that company do? Because here's something I liked about Minority Report's futurism is that they kept brands. So it's not like this. Here's like a fucking future electric car, but it's made by Lexus. There's a mall and it's got like future like face scanning technology, but it's the Gap. It's like, that's cool, but like there's no Sony, there's no fucking Apple mentioned in that. Did Apple just go out of business?
No, they wouldn't have. It's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. And then I've always wondered about the mechanics of the game, because it's like, how do people who can't afford the suits, like how do they move in the game, and how about the people who don't have volumes to walk around?
Yeah. Another thing.
Or how does the guy sitting in a chair walk?
Exactly. Because I've actually played, like, I have a VR like headset and everything. I have an Oculus Rift, and all you have is 2 hand controllers and then the headset, and like, all right, so like omnidirectional treadmill. That makes sense. That would allow you to use your legs to walk in different directions. But then there's like people like fucking doing. In the game, they show people do fucking backflips in the air over people and shoot at them. It's like, well, what the? They don't like in a book. Maybe that worked, but in the movie, I'm like, well, why don't you cut back to the person in reality? Because like, what the fuck are they doing to do that in VR? Yeah. There's a scene set in the nightclub, and it's like super cool because it's like, oh, it's a 0G nightclub, 0G dancing. It's like, well, how would you feel that? Like how would you wouldn't be in 0G in reality.
You'd have like the sick ass setups where you have like the suspension cord set up, like the van, the van at the end of the movie, or the post.
But they don't have that in that scene
when
they're doing that shit. He's just in a suit.
Oh, I thought there was a point where he's hung up on cables.
That's later in the movie when they're in the van.
Oh, when they're just
no cables in that scene as far as I recall. Another thing is that, like, if you played VR, you know that most games, the way you move in VR is you have to like teleport. You don't physically like walk, because as soon as you do that, you throw the fuck up because you get horrible motion sickness. And it's like, I guess this is a world in which they just figured out the motion sickness.
That's what Holiday did. That was the trick. He figured it out how to move and remove motion sickness, and how have variableness of code, so that you could do almost anything and you're still moving the way however you want to move in the game.
I'll finish up, but the reason I called it dangerous is there's a scene where the villain, Ben Mendelsohn, who has played the exact same villain in at least 4 movies now.
Hang on. Just because you mentioned this, and this is a big question of mine that was not answered in our Spoilercast, and I want to ask you real quickly, and then I want you to finish your thought, please. Who the fuck is his avatar?
Oh, okay. I think it's just supposed to be like big business boss man. I get with the curl. I remembered you saying that, like, you thought maybe he was evil Superman, but I didn't see Superman anywhere in the movie. But I guess they have the licensing rights because they got Batman in there. But I don't think
true.
it was supposed to be Superman. I think he was just supposed to.
I always thought of him as Superman that was just in Clark Kent mode, but like how Clark Kent would really look in reality if he was Superman. You of course you'd look at Clark Kent and be like, oh, he's obviously Superman. Look how big and swole that guy is in that suit.
I think he was just supposed to be.
He looks like
I think
Superman.
He was supposed to be big business guy.
I've heard Gears of War a bunch, like Gears of War character in a suit.
Yeah, I mean, well, some of like that's the thing. The things they chose to give shout outs to were weird. Like there's a lot of shots of Tracer from Overwatch, and I'm like, do you think people would really give a shit about fucking Tracer from Overwatch in 2047?
Yeah, there were a lot of like, it was interesting what they picked and what they put in the forefront, what they put in the background. I think even a lot of people like online mistook the Kira's bike for actually being more of a Tron light bike, a light cycle.
It's from Akira. They do say, they actually say Akira.
No, but people thought like in trailers, like saw that even and thought like, oh, is that like a Tron light cycle? You know, and or the Gundam thing where people were like, oh my God, is that Voltron? It's like, no, that's not Voltron. You know, it's
Gundam, yeah.
But like there was like a lot of like variance even in the way people thought of pop culture because they went with such obscure things, or not necessarily so obscure to like to certain people, but obscure to general audiences, to the point where they're like just drawing from their basic knowledge, like I saw Tron, right? Because no one's seen Akira since 89 or whatever it came out, and then like on top of that, you know, most people in America don't know about Gundam. Well, much more so we know about Voltron, especially since the Voltron Netflix TV show is blasted on.
Yeah, I did kind of laugh to I mentioned this to Corey when he was like, so that guy's avatar is Freddy Krueger. So somebody decided that their avatar should be a disfigured child molester and murderer.
And a monster.
Yeah. The reason I was saying it was like just dangerous is just because there was a scene with, yeah, like I said, Ben Mendelsohn's the villain. He plays the same villain he played in Rogue One and The Dark Knight Rises. And he's just corporate bad guy who has corporate things going on.
Have you ever seen Mississippi Grind?
No, I haven't. I haven't heard of it.
It's really good. It's Ryan Reynolds, it's Ben Mendelsohn, and they play just gamblers.
He doesn't play the villain, because that's all I know him as.
No, he's the protagonist, but he is the villain of his own story. That's for sure.
Well, in this, to establish his villainness, they show that he doesn't know shit about pop culture. He doesn't care. He's getting fed pop culture lines so he can talk to a pop culture nerd.
I love that. That was pretty funny.
I guess if you're not a John Hughes fan.
Of course I am.
Because the first thing that I would do is convert all the schools on Ludus to replicas from the Breakfast Club and Ferris Bueller.
No way. That's a great idea. Which school? Ridgemont or Faber?
Fast Times at Ridgemont High, not John Hughes. It's a trap. Faber College from Animal House.
John Hughes didn't direct Fast Times at Ridgemont High or Animal House. Ferris Bueller and the Breakfast Club, they went to Shermer High School, which is in Shermer, Illinois. I know what you think. You think I'm a corporate asshole, that I don't appreciate pop culture, but man, that's not true. You know, when I want to blow off steam,
Drink tab, play Robotron, listen to Duran Duran.
I crack open a tab. I put on some Duran Duran. I play Robotron. That's why I love the Oasis. Because it's just full of all these things, man, that people love, you know?
You don't care.
And he was like, you think I don't know about pop culture? You don't think I value the magic and power of pop culture? But I do. I'm not just some corporate bad guy, but he really is, because he doesn't value the pop culture. And the hero is like, you don't get the power of pop culture, man. A real fanboy knows a hater from day one.
A fanboy knows a hater, and I know you've got a whole department of oologists in your ear. So if you want to know what I really think,
why don't the two of you go fuck yourselves? I'm out of here.
And I'm like, Hollywood should not be sucking its own dick in that way, like where it's like, oh yeah, all this pop culture in a time in which Hollywood is at its worst in telling the world how it should think, feel, act, and be. Hollywood should not be making Steven Spielberg, the most Hollywood person in Hollywood, probably the most powerful Hollywood man, should not be making a movie celebrating the power of the things that Hollywood has created. It is just like, it is such a fucking narcissistic viewpoint to be like, pop culture and fanboyism defeats evil corporate people. Now let's go pay money to Disney, an evil corporate company that created the pop culture that we appreciate. It's just like, what is the point other than look how fucking great we are? Yeah, man.
It is. It's celebrating this beast that's gotten almost out of control.
Yes,
for sure.
Because I apparently in the book there's a like Indiana Jones and all kinds of E.T. and Spielberg references all over the place, and they took most of that shit out. And like the most Spielberg thing in the movie that gets a lot of references probably Back to the Future with the DeLorean and the Zemeckis cube, like his own movies. Like nobody's fucking has Amon Goeth as their avatar. Or Indiana Jones as their avatar, which probably would be more realistic. So they took that stuff out.
Yeah, who wants to be Amon?
Well, they're on the internet.
They are.
So they took like the Spielberg shit out, and it's like he's celebrating other people's shit. Like, oh, there's King Kong, and there's it looks kind of like the Peter Jackson King Kong, and there's the turtles, but they're the fucking Michael Bay turtles. So he was like giving it to other people.
That upset me that they were Michael Bay turtles and not the turtles from the 80s.
But like, you fucking know those people. I mean, you know Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
So it's like you're still part of this whole system. So like, really should you be patting yourself on the back right now in 2017 that hard? I found it to be not dangerous is hyperbole, but I found it to be like weirdly arrogant.
I guess so.
For Hollywood to make a product about selling about the greatness of Hollywood. But I mean, that's what the Oscars are. They do that. They do this. They've been doing this for decades. This is the first time I've seen it in movie form.
That's true. That's very true. It's yeah, you're right. The Oscars have been doing it for decades, and this is something that, like, you know, it's very odd that Spielberg is doing it. I think he probably felt like a call to it, like he had to do it. It is something from conception. You just kind of, I've at least felt, I was like, what? Wait, I don't really want to see this movie. I'm not really interested in this movie, and I kind of find it tiresome. Just the thought idea of this of pop culture inundated movie, you know, pop culture the movie, and like that. I had that, you know, preconception going into it for sure, and that's what the movie though is kind of in the end, and it's just not good. I don't think it's dangerous because I don't think it's catching fire, Felk. I don't think people are watching this movie. That's true.
Yeah,
and like being like, oh my god, this movie's got a message. I think people are like, everyone kind of watched this movie and went, all right, whatever, moving on to the next one.
Yeah, and a lot of people saw it and were like, okay, so you're just referencing things from other movies?
Yeah.
And they just kind of dismissed it.
You mentioned Spielberg referencing himself, and then the only thing you pointed out was the Robert Zemeckis film.
No. In the book, I'm saying in the book, there's like Indiana Jones and E.T. and fucking all kinds of Spielberg references. And because Spielberg didn't want to be like self-congratulatory, he took most of the Spielberg shit out, and the only thing that's even Spielberg-y in the movie left is probably Back to the Future. I think there might have been a gremlin.
Not the T-Rex from the race?
Well, he doesn't own T-Rexes aren't his.
That's his T-Rex. That is the T-Rex from Jurassic Park for sure.
Boy, do I hate being right all the time.
There's T-Rexes in other movies.
Yeah, but that is the T-Rex from Jurassic Park.
I'd have to pause. Maybe it has 3 fingers.
No, I've only seen the movie once, and that's probably, I'll see it one more time.
If it's 3 fingers, it's a Peter Jackson T-Rex.
It's a V-Rex then.
Yeah. Which would make more sense because it's in the same race as King Kong, is all I'm saying.
It is.
I just saw T-Rex, King Kong, and I'm like, okay, that's all Peter Jackson. I did not think Jurassic Park, weirdly enough.
I thought Jurassic Park mixed with King Kong, and I saw it as Peter Jackson's King Kong, right? It was his.
It looked pretty much like the Peter Jackson King Kong.
I mean, what other King Kong would it be, really? Right? It's not Kong Skull Island. It's not Kong from 1976. It's not Kong from 1933. It's only Peter Jackson's.
Should I end it? Cool Boy Nation, Tell us what you thought about Ready Player One, the movie, not the goddamn book, by emailing us at thecoolboyspodcast@gmail.com. New episodes of the Cool Boys Podcast come out every Tuesday. Be sure to like and subscribe to us on iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Twitter, and Facebook. And please rate and review us as well. You can also donate to us on Patreon and receive additional content like Cool Boys After Dark. It only costs $1 a month, and you'll receive special access to content too hot to air. You can find the Cool Boys on Patreon at patreon.com/coolboyspodcast. And please check out our other great Cool Boy Central content with Batman and Beyond, a Cool Boys podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and Patreon, where the Cool Boys have an uncensored discussion about Batman, the animated series. Everything ranging from bat nips to bat tips and all the boners they have given us. Thank you for listening. Stay cool, Cool Boy Nation. Until next time, it's Byzies from Felk.
That's Byzies from Ballard.
Get on, it'll ask you.
Yellow. Yep.
Hey, what? Oh, was. Hey, what? Oh, was. Hey, what? Oh, was.
Hi, this is Corey. I hope you and I can get married someday.
Cyrus.